Hi everyone, Stepan here. Today I'm going to show you my round 1 game from the Versar Open, or sorry, round 4 game, but the first game I played. So I missed the first 3 rounds, unfortunately, because the day before the tournament started, I got a message from my driving school that my exam is going to be the next day. So I had to stay in Zagreb and I had to miss the beginning of the tournament, which is unfortunate. Long story short, I missed the first 3 rounds, passed the exam, and got to play a game in the Zagreb Cup, which I showed you in the previous video, since I was in Zagreb, so why not play? And Swiss tournaments work in a way that you get paired against people who have an equal number of points as you. Meaning that since I had 0 out of 3, I haven't played the first 3 rounds, I was to be paired against somebody with 0 points. Now, chance would have it that I got paired against the only possible opponent who had 0 points, but had 0 points because he too did not play. I think he played in the first round and lost to someone over 2000, and then he had school and couldn't play the rest of the tournament. Now, this was my worst game of the tournament. I have to warn you immediately, and I missed 2 huge chances. Okay, or one of them I made a huge mistake and the other one I missed a huge chance. So, I played the London because I had no idea who I was going to play. I was in the bus driving to Versar when the pairings got out, and I arrived like 2 hours before the game. I had no idea what my opponent played, and I didn't want to risk 15 moves of prep and e4 or d4 or whatever, so I played the London. And we got the main line position. This is all extremely standard, played a million times, but in this position my opponent played a move I've never seen before. Again, the same thing happened in the previous game. My opponent played a6. In this game my opponent played c4. The idea is the same. My opponent wants to go b5 and b4 and undermine my position. So, as I mentioned in the previous video, when they close down the center on the queen side, e4 is your pawn break, so I played it immediately, and that's the correct move. Now, usually in positions in which black plays b6 and the pawn is still on c5, it's correct for black to play bishop e7. I'm not sure what the best decision is here. I was actually expecting him to take, and that's what happened. If bishop e7, then this same idea of knight h5 and knight g5 is probably good enough, although who is it favorable for that the queen side is closed? I think for me, but yeah, in the same line like this, I think white is better than in the standard variation. In any case, on e4 he took knight takes, bishop takes, and bishop e7. And white should be slightly better here. This was played twice before, and in both games white played queen e2, which is the correct move. Absolutely correct. Simply defending the bishop, preparing to castle, and preventing b4. Queen e2 makes a ton of sense. Also, if I don't play queen e2, the best move should be a4, where I'm provoking b4. If b4 happens, then queen e2 again is on the pawn and defends the bishop. But I'd miscalculated completely and played an idiotic move. I'm going to show you my move. I played knight e5 because I wanted to win quickly. And you can try to refute this for black. Take some time, pause the video. This isn't easy. Okay, so what happened was, actually what I had expected happened, and I got a better position, but I should have gotten a losing position. So knight e5, bishop b7, knight d3 check. I know it seems weird to allow this, but what I saw was king f1, rook b8, and bishop e4. And I thought, if my opponent takes on b2, I go queen c2, I have a good position, so he'll probably play knight f4, which is what happened. He played knight f4, I took on f4, bishop f4, g3, bishop c7, and white now has a very pleasant position. My king is going to g2, My queen is going to either c2 or f3, and I get to play rook e1. Oh, very good. However, after bishop e4, I'd completely missed that my opponent can take. And on queen c2, my opponent has a winning move. And this is what I'd missed. Before playing knight e5, he can play f5 here. And after f5, I resign. I don't have anything else to do. If I retreat my bishop, then knight d3. If I don't retreat my bishop, my opponent takes my bishop. So probably the only way to try and salvage the position is bishop f5, threatening bishop h7. So ef5, bishop d6, queen d6, queen b2. And again, very, very hard to defend after a5. The engine says black is winning. Maybe I could have swindled something out of this, but it would have been extremely hard. My rooks are disconnected. I can never go g3 now because the queen has d5. Basically, I'm out of moves. I don't know what to do. Probably I have to play something like f3, king f2, rook e1, which is extremely ugly. So in this position, I simply messed up. Knight e5 is a blunder. I was also trying to make bishop h7 work, but it never did work. Of course, with bishop d6 first. So bishop d6, queen d6, bishop h7, king h7, knight g5, king g6. It simply doesn't work. I tried queen g4. I also tried knight e4. Nothing works, and the sacrifice didn't work, which is correct. In any case, I played knight e5 instead of the sensible queen e2 or a4, because I thought that the resulting position would be good for me, which is, even if f5 isn't in the position, even if he has to play knight f4 like he played in the game, this isn't really a winning position. It's slightly better for white. I don't know why I was playing a risky move against a lower-rated opponent, which only gave me a small edge. And this position I'd visualized correctly before playing knight e5. I thought it was better for me than it actually is. In any case, I got the position I wanted. I was lucky that my opponent didn't play the correct move. King g2, f5. And now I made another mistake. What I should have played was bishop f3. I simply didn't want to keep my bishop on an inactive diagonal. I wanted to keep it on this one. And I was aware that I could have some problems on the light squares. But I still played bishop c2. After this, it's equal. After bishop f3, white should have a big advantage. It's +1 or more. But again, engine evaluations here don't really matter. After f5, I was happy that he'd weakened his e6 pawn, and all I wanted to do was prevent e5, or be able to meet e5 with d5 if the structure is blockaded. So I played bishop e2, and my opponent gave me the chance to correct my mistake. He played f4, and now, of course, bishop e4 is the best move. If my bishop can stay on e4, then that's much better than f3, because I'm defending the f3 square without the bishop being loose. And now again, white is better. My opponent played queen f6. I played queen e2, connecting my rooks, and of course defending the f2 pawn. If I don't play queen f2, then takes and queen f2. So this was pretty much forced. I also could have played queen f3, but I didn't want to trade queens. Rook b to e8 played, and here I played rook a to d1. And now, this is the beginning of a series of moves where I should have played a4. Now, of course, I knew that a4 was an option, and it was very tempting to go a4. The reason is simple. If it's taken, then I activate my rook. So this is easy to see. If the pawn pushes forward, then I don't take on c4 with the queen yet, because again, fg3 and queen f2. But I can prepare that. I can play rook f1, worst case, and then take. And if he defends, then I simply take, and go rook a7. And again, this is huge for me. On bishop b6, I have rook b7. I saw that, but I thought that I needed time in the center. I needed time to be able to meet e5 with d5. Because of the spin, I didn't want to take on e5. So I actually brought my rook away from the a file. And if you go a4, the engine says white is crushing black. It's +2 and a4 white wins for engines. For humans, there's counterplay in the center, so I decided to play in the center and leave this b for now. White is still better after my idea, and it's less risky in my opinion, but I didn't play the winning idea straight away. King h8 by my opponent. This is a sensible idea because in many positions I would be able to simply win because of the spin. And here I played queen f3, preventing f3 ideas for the moment, and also had the king stayed on h8, let's say black plays here and I go queen f3. On e5, in some positions there would have been bishop d5, maybe even here, I'm not sure. But queen f3 was also connected with bishop d5. I'm struggling to remember exactly what the point was. But in any case, it was more so to defend this and to prevent my opponent from playing f3. Okay, rook e7 played, and again, if I turned on the engine here, the engine says plus 1.5, plus 2, big advantage. And the reason for that is a move I played a couple of moves later, and I actually had the correct idea. I wanted to go g4, h4. I thought that was my only line of attack, and since I'd already decided to meet e5 with d5, it makes perfect sense to prevent any counterplay from black. And g4 I could have played immediately, because if the queen comes to h4 now, I could go queen h3, trading queens into a better endgame, because these are weaknesses my bishop could target and his bishop couldn't defend. And if the queen doesn't come to h4, then I play h4. So for example, e5, d5, blockading here, so bishop d6, and now h4. And I'm not saying white is winning, the engine thinks so, but I definitely have an attacking plan, whereas black doesn't. I mean, it's impossible to get to my king without sacrificing something. So I could have played g4 straight away, but I didn't yet. I played rook d2 first. And rook d2 is actually a bad move tactically, even though it's not a mistake in itself, but it gives my opponent the chance to play f3 and then start pressing on my rook. It could be a tempo game, as you're going to see later. So he did play e5, which I'd expected. Rook d2, of course, was the idea was to get this rook to d1 and reinforce d5. Now, I could have taken on e5, and this I didn't even consider. This is probably my biggest mistake of the game positionally. The fact that I didn't even consider I just thought it had to be too much counterplay for black after that. But the thing is, after d5, rook e5, and g4, there is no play for black. I mean, what does black do? The engine actually takes on e4, which I find very strange. Of course, you free up the f-pawn, but it seems radical. Let's say rook fe8 is played, just bishop c6, and I should be better. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't even consider that. I played d5, which is okay. My opponent blockaded with bishop d6, and I played rook h to d1. Now, a weird move here is offered by the engine, which I didn't consider, and that's b4. Now, of course, it cannot be taken en passant because I free up my c-pawn to move, and I'm going to go c4, c5, and so on. And of course, the idea is a4, again, breaking open on the queen side and making this bishop even worse, and creating a permanent target. So if, let's say, I don't know, rook d8, then a4, and if this is taken, whoa, I did something weird. I hope it's okay. No, give me a second. Okay, it should be okay now. Yeah, and the idea is taking over the a file and targeting the pawn on b5. So b4 makes a lot of sense. I didn't even consider it, to be honest. I played rook h to d1, and my idea was to go g4 and then queen h3 to provoke h6 and then go back and then go h4. It may sound complicated, but I'll show you. So rook g8. First I played b3. I should have played g4 immediately. The idea, of course, again, is queen h3, h6, queen f3, and then h4. But I played b3, tempting him to take. He didn't. He played rook c7, and now I played b4. So it's the same idea. I want to go a4 and attack the pawn on b5. He played a6. And I played rook a1 before playing a4. I don't think it matters much. Here he played queen g5, and now I have to go g4. If I move my queen away, then f3 is threatened, and queen d2. So g4. My opponent played a5, which I think is a good idea. And I could have gone for my attacking idea immediately with h4. Unfortunately, my previous plan of going queen f3, queen h3, queen f3 again fails now that the queen is on g5, because if I go queen h3, then f3 wins the game. So I had to switch plans, and I could have played h4 straight away. The idea being, if the queen retreats, I now have two pawns moving towards my opponent's king. And if queen takes, then of course rook h1. And queen f6, rook h7, or bishop h7. But I played a3 instead. I wanted to recapture with my a pawn, and I couldn't see why I would need to rush. My opponent played a4, which he had a chance to either play h5, try to break things open, or simply queen h4, which is probably a better idea, offering a queen trade. And if the position is blocked, then I don't have an attack. But I can understand a4, because if he plays queen h4, I could now insert ba5, and there will be pressure on the b pawn. If rook a7, rook b2, I don't know who's better there, but there's counterplay. So in any case, he played a4, and now this is the critical position in which I made the second biggest mistake of the game. This is basically white to play and have a huge attack, or white to play and allow black to draw. The good idea, the only good idea, is h4, because I don't have time for anything else. Again, if queen h4, rook h1, if the queen retreats, I can just go g5 and start pushing. Let's say, hard to suggest a move, let's say queen d7. I don't know what to do. So rook h1, rook f5 doesn't work. I can just take it, but it's probably the best idea. I don't know. If my opponent just waits, then I can do this and bring my other rook into play. So this was the best way to play. My original idea of provoking h6 again doesn't work while the queen is on g5 because of f3. What I did was too slow. I played rook d1, and I wanted to go for queen h3, h6, queen f3, h4. Unfortunately, I gave my opponent the chance to go h5. And now my opponent is attacking my g-pawn. I don't really have any good options. I would have to go h3, because I don't see anything else. And now the drawing move is h4. I cannot break through this position. There is simply no way to break through, unless I find a way to give up an exchange on e5, which is unlikely, or unless I give up my bishop on a4 or on c4, which is also unlikely. This battery doesn't really work. If I try to go like bishop c2 and queen e4, it can always be defended against. So this would have been a draw. I messed up. So I gave my opponent a chance to get a winning position at the start of the game. Then when I was better after that for 30 moves, I gave my opponent a chance to draw. And I had a lot of time on the clock. I had like 45 minutes. And to be honest, I thought this was an easily winning position. And unless in this position he plays h5, it is. h5 is the only idea that blocks the position up. Otherwise, he has no counterplay. I have targets and I have play on the king side, whereas there's nothing active he could do. So h5 is the only way to draw, and I gave him that chance. Fortunately for me, unfortunately for my opponent, he lost the game in one move here. He played rook f6, and if you don't see the tactics immediately, you can pause the video. It's fairly simple. h4 either wins the exchange or the queen, or rook or the queen. So this has to be taken, because if queen h6 and rook g6, I don't have to take. This rook is... The queen isn't moving anywhere, so I can just improve. I could just go rook g1 or rook h1. Rook h1, rook g1, wait for him to waste moves. This is what I want to do. So it doesn't matter what he does. I'm not going to take the rook, because he's playing a queen and rook down. I'm going to take it at the best moment. So I would have done this. Let's say black does nothing, because there is nothing black could do. And then I go h5 and... Or no, I don't. Yeah, then I take, I'm sorry. And then I keep pushing. So on h4, my opponent didn't play queen h6, which would have been more resilient. He played queen h4, but now he just loses the queen. Rook h1, queen g5 only move, and rook h5, and that's about it. He played rook g6, I took, he took with the rook, rook h1, h6, and rook h5 was the final move of the game. Here my opponent resigned, because I'm reducing material, and if this is ever taken, obviously his rook cannot parry my queen. All I have to do is lift the blockade on d6 and queen this pawn, or even better, checkmate. Either of which would have happened. It's a hopeless position. But coming back to this critical position, not seeing h5 is a big problem. This is a huge mistake. I mean, and the mistake comes from the fact that I just assumed that I was winning and that I had time, which again is true if h5 wasn't a possibility. There is nothing else my opponent can do. But h5 is so strong that after that the position is blockaded, and I don't have anything. So yeah, h4 was the correct move, just seizing the opportunity to gain space on the queen side and prevent a blockade, which is the key point. And again, wherever my opponent goes, I just go g5, and now I slowly build the attack. I can go rook h1, king f1, king e2, rook d1, rook g1, and keep pushing. Eventually I'm gonna break through. So yeah, this wasn't a good game. It was my first game, or my worst game of the tournament. Fortunately I got lucky and did not get punished for 2 blunders. Again, I'm sorry for my opponent. He deserved at least a draw there, if not beating me with f5, knight b2 and f5 at the beginning of the game. So don't assume you're winning. That would be the first lesson, and look for your opponent's resources. Missing h5 is a big deal. I could have drawn the game and then had half a point out of 4 rounds, and I would have been paired with people of lesser strength throughout the tournament. In any case, I hope you got something from the game. I hope it was interesting. It was very complicated, and I also hope it was instructive. Thank you. Stay tuned for more chess. Bye bye.